welcome back to another episode of Keeping It Real with your girl, Phyllyphyl. How y'all doing? Okay, let's just jump on into this. All right, today was Tim Norman's court hearing, his court appearance, rather, in court. It was also available via Zoom, and your girl did dial into the Zoom call. So let's just get started. I couldn't record it. Of course, I took notes as quickly and as best that I could, all right? So Judge Baker, she started off, she asked her court deputy to go over the rules. So, and she did. The court deputy said no recording of the procedures, etc. Okay. Then the judge said, we're now on the record. She said, United States of America, USA versus James Timothy Norman. The judge mentioned that there were two other defendants, that are also charged in this case. She then went over that Tim had an initial appearance in the Southern District of Mississippi on August 20th, 2020. She noted that he had been represented by a public defender. Judge Baker also noted that the defendant had waived his right to an identity hearing on August 24th and a detention hearing at that time. So the detention hearing was today because he also refused to appear on September 15th. Okay? The judge said that on September 18th, Mr. Norman was scheduled to appear, and he did not consent to the Zoom hearing, and his consent was necessary for that to happen. Okay, guys? Remember, I already talked about that. So she said the court had ordered that Mr. Norman be brought in person. She said Mr. Norman did not appear then due to medical issues. So on October 9th, Mr. Rogers, that was last Friday, his new attorney now asked for a brief continuance. And that's why we had that today, okay, the hearing today. Judge Baker said that Mr. Norman had been given his rights to an initial appearance, but Judge Baker said that he had been given his rights in his initial appearance, but she would go over his rights again just to make sure. And she then asked his attorney if he had reviewed the charges against Mr. Norman with Tim, and he said yes. The judge then asked that Tim be sworn in, and she wanted to speak directly to Tim. He was sworn in and agreed to the things that she was asking him by saying, yes, ma'am, to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, okay? The judge asked him his full name. He said James Timothy Norman, date of birth, 7/13/1971, and his age, 41. She asked him how far did he go in school. He said some college. She then asked if he required any medications, and he said no, ma'am. She advised him that he had the right to be represented by an attorney, and she asked him, do you understand that? He said yes. She asked him, had he retained an attorney? He said yes, and it was stated that it was John Rogers was his counsel. She asked him, do you understand the nature of the charges that have been filed against you? He said, yes, ma'am. Attorney Rogers stated that the client would plead not guilty to all three counts of the charges, okay? So Tim is pleading not guilty, all right? The judge then asked if discovery had been arranged. Mr. Rogers, she asked that to Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers noted that he had been provided with one discovery, and that the government said, it's very, and I mentioned it's very voluminous and large. So he said he had received an index, but no discovery, and had not received it or been reviewed at that time, okay? The judge then mentioned that the complex case findings, again, remember I talked about this case as a complex case finding, that has something to do with the speedy trial as well. Mr. Rogers said that he had taken no position on that as of yet. The judge asked the government for their reasoning for the complex case, and it was noted that because of the huge volume of electronic documents, foreign surveillance, and law enforcement records, etc. Okay, there's a lot of things in this case. The judge then noted that there are three different defendants. Again, we have Terica Ellis and Wally is his nickname, okay? And she said that she had granted that request for the complex case findings on those two, okay? The judge said that due to the nature of the case and the government seeking the death penalty, complex case would be granted for Tim as well. The judge mentioned that the government is seeking the death penalty, and this case is also outside of the Speedy Trial Act. So the judge then mentioned the status conference hearing, guys, and was reminded that a date, and I told you guys this last week, that a date of December the 2nd, 2020 had been set. And she said yes for 10 a.m., okay? Now she said this would be an attorneys only proceeding for discovery and pretrial items, etc. Remember, I mentioned this before, that the government and the defense counsels would discuss housekeeping items, details, and dates, and just getting things on the schedule. So the defendants would not need to be there, okay? All right. Mr. Rogers then said that Mr. Norman was requesting an appointment of a secondary counsel for mediation, or a mediation specialist. Okay, so yes, Mr. Rogers is requesting a secondary counsel or a mediation specialist. Okay, since this case, he said, is a potential for the death penalty case. He said that his client should have learned counsel. All right, let me read you guys what a learned counsel is. Learned counsel, that's the effective assistance of counsel, conscientious, meaningful representation wherein accused is advised of his rights, and honest, learned, and able counsel is given a reasonable opportunity to perform tasks assigned to him. You know, like I say, with this death penalty, just in case, you know, it gets there, they need to have specialists on his team, pretty much like this was approved for Terica last week. He said his client should have learned counsel. All right. And the USA had no objection to that. Okay. So Mr. Rogers then went over the fact that he had tried over 150 jury trials. He just started listing, discussing his, I guess you could say, his experience. He had tried over 150 jury trials. He tried over 50 homicide cases, but this is regarding the death penalty, and Mr. Rogers was just listing his experience, but still felt that he would need, assistant counsel, a specialist, and referred to the CGA Act counsel. Let me read that to you guys so you can know what the CGA counsel is, and I also put it. Okay, guys. So let me tell you what the Criminal Justice Act guidelines are. CGA. These policies and procedures represent the guidelines of the Judicial Conference of the United States for the administration and operation of the Criminal Justice Act, CGA. The Sixth Amendment to the United States Constitution guarantees an accused the right to representation by counsel in serious criminal prosecutions. Enacted in 1964, the CGA establishes a comprehensive system for appointing and compensating legal representation for accused persons who are financially unable to retain counsel in federal criminal proceedings. Okay. Now, after reading that, I'm not sure. I don't know who's paying for Tim's attorney. I don't know if the state is paying for this in some way or Ms. Robbie. I'm not sure. But this CGA says that, a defendant has the right to have assistance and have this type of counsel paid for when they're being potentially could be charged for the death penalty. Okay. All right. It says, it then went on, the judge said the USA then stated that the death penalty was just a possibility. And I mentioned this, it's on the table, and that a memo had been submitted to Washington to make a decision, but no decision had been made yet about the death penalty, okay? They said it isn't actually on the table yet, but it could be. Now remember, I had discussed that this case could be charged with the death penalty. And, the USA, they want it, but they're just waiting for Washington, which is pretty much William Barr's Justice Department, to give them the go-ahead that they can charge these defendants, Terica and Tim, put the death penalty on the line, okay? So, I don't know. We're going to see. That's going to be interesting to see what Washington does. Like I say, so they've submitted the memo requesting the death penalty, but it hasn't been granted yet, all right? All right. The judge noted to Mr. Norman that if a second attorney was appointed, and she did this with Terica as well. She said if a second attorney is appointed and allowed, it would only be if the death penalty is on the table. She said if the death penalty is off the table, then he would only have one attorney, okay? She did the same thing for Terica. So she is being consistent, all right? You don't want any slip-ups because, if there's an appeal later, they could always cite that. All right. The judge then moved to discuss detention, document number 5. This is whether or not he will be granted bail or bond, okay? The USA wants, Mr. Norman wants Tim held until trial. And guys, I'm summarizing this, so it isn't word for word, but it's pretty much what was going on, all right? Pretty much, Mr. Rogers stated that he did not factually disagree with the evidence that the USA had submitted, stating that Tim, needed to be held until trial, but he listed reasons why Tim should have bail, okay? He said that the arrest allegation that the USA had mentioned that occurred August 23rd in 2014 was an alleged assault, okay? Now, this was when Tim hit his chef in Houston, all right? Now, his attorney, Mr. Rogers, said that his client was working at the restaurant and then intervened to break up a dispute, all right? I guess this is when Tim punched the chef. He then said that Tim had not admitted to guilt and that he had not admitted to guilt of anything since the age of 17 or 18. That was his last admission of guilt, all right? So he's setting it up saying Tim hasn't been in any trouble since he was 17 or 18 or hasn't, admitted to anything as being guilty since he was like 17 or 18. He then addressed the USA statement of the lack of family residence in the area, all right? He noted it, but I didn't catch all of that. The sound sort of went out. So they were talking about the discovery and the protective order. They're trying to protect some of this evidence. They don't want the names of the witnesses to get out. Remember, we talked about that with Terica. And both of these cases are going to tie in together, okay? So finally, the judge said that she would take the detention under advisement and make a decision at a later date. All right, guys? So what I'll have to do, you just have to keep checking the document, the docket daily, check the court docket daily and see when that will be scheduled, when the judge is going to schedule the next hearing for Tim to make a decision on his detention, see if he'll get bail or not, all right? So I'll keep checking it for you guys, and that was pretty much what I gathered today. I know there's going to be a lot of good vlogs out there, guys. I'll be watching those as well, so you all check them out because we're all going to report pretty much the same thing, but we're going to do it, we'll be reporting it in a different way, all right? But pretty much saying the same thing, so please watch those other vlogs, and I'll do the same, and I'll keep you guys updated on this as soon as they schedule the next hearing for Tim. I don't know how long the judge is going to take before she sets it up to make a decision about his bail or not, but I'll let you guys know as soon as I find out. All right? Thanks for watching.
Everybody ain't your friend. Everybody ain't your partner. I say I got you. Well, just hold it down and keep it solid. And when you're not around, I protect your name. I won't talk about you. Everybody ain't your friend.